Here is a number that should stop you cold. The average Social Security check in 2026 is roughly $1,900 a month. That is $22,800 a year. That is your retirement. That is the money you are supposed to live on, eat on, pay rent with, buy medicine with, and somehow still have enough left over to actually enjoy the years you spent 45 years working to reach. And here is the second number that should make you angry. The average cost of living for a retiree in the United States right now is over $3,000 a month. That gap between $1,900 and $3,000, that $1,100 hole in your monthly budget, that is the reason millions of American seniors are typing the same words into Google every single night. Can I retire abroad on Social Security alone? The answer is yes and no, and it depends entirely on where you go. Choose the wrong country and your Social Security check evaporates before the 15th of the month. Choose the right one, and you live like a person who actually built something over a lifetime of work. The problem is that most of the information online is lying to you. The articles ranking the cheapest places to retire are written by 25-year-olds who have never been to any of these countries. The YouTube videos with drone shots and upbeat music are made by people earning money from the real estate agents in those countries. The Facebook groups are full of people who moved 3 months ago and are still in the honeymoon phase, posting pictures of their sunset views while quietly ignoring that their savings are draining faster than they budgeted for. I am going to do something different. I am going to tell you which countries will destroy your retirement budget on Social Security, the ones the glossy websites keep recommending but cannot actually work. And then I am going to tell you which countries actually deliver, the places where $1,900 a month buys a real life, not just survival. By the end of this video, you will know exactly which destinations to cross off your list forever, and which ones deserve a serious second look. Let me start with the countries that ruin retirees on Social Security. These are the traps, the places that, on paper, look like they should work, and in reality drain you faster than staying in the United States. And I am starting with the most painful one, because it is the country that millions of American retirees dream about, and almost none of them can actually afford. Portugal. I know how this sounds. Portugal is on every single list. Portugal is the country everyone tells you to move to. The Expat Facebook groups are obsessed with Portugal. The YouTube channels are drowning in Portugal content. The American retiree fantasy is currently set in a charming Lisbon apartment with a balcony overlooking terracotta rooftops, a glass of Vinho Verde in hand, a pastry from a corner bakery that costs less than $1. And I have to tell you that for the average Social Security retiree, Portugal is becoming a mathematical impossibility. Let me walk you through the numbers because the numbers do not lie. Lisbon, where most of the fantasy is set, now has rents that rival mid-sized American cities. A one-bedroom apartment in a decent neighborhood, not a luxury apartment, not a penthouse, just a normal one-bedroom, is running you 1,200 to 1,500 euros a month. That is roughly $1,300 to $1,600. On a $1,900 Social Security check, you are spending 70 to 85% of your income on rent before you have eaten a single meal, before you have paid a single utility bill, before you have bought a single prescription. The math does not work. It does not come close to working, but the Portugal defenders will tell you to avoid Lisbon. Go to the smaller cities, they say. Braga, Coimbra, the Algarve interior. And yes, rents in those places are lower, maybe 800 to 1,000 euros a month. Still, at 1,000 euros, you are spending more than half your Social Security check on housing. Now, factor in utilities, which in a Portuguese winter can be surprisingly expensive, because Portuguese homes are often poorly insulated and heating costs are real. Factor in groceries. Factor in the private health insurance you will need until you qualify for the public system. Factor in transportation. Factor in the occasional meal out, the occasional train ticket to see another city, the small pleasures that make life worth living. You are now at 1,700 to 1,900 euros a month, and you have not budgeted for a single emergency, not a single flight home for a family wedding or a funeral, not a single unexpected medical expense. And I have not even mentioned the tax situation. Portugal used to offer a non-habitual resident tax regime that essentially exempted foreign retirees from Portuguese taxes on their Social Security income for 10 years. That program has been significantly restricted. Now, depending on your situation, your Social Security income may be taxable in Portugal. The exact tax treatment depends on the US-Portugal tax treaty, your total income, and how your Social Security benefits are classified under Portuguese law. The point is that the days of moving to Portugal and paying zero tax are over for most new retirees. Between the rent, the daily costs, and the tax uncertainty, Portugal on $1,900 a month is not a retirement plan. It is a slow financial hemorrhage. Costa Rica. This one hurts to say because Costa Rica is genuinely wonderful. The beaches, the rainforests, the commitment to environmental preservation, the warm, welcoming culture, the political stability. Costa Rica is one of the most admirable countries in the Americas, and it has been a retirement magnet for decades. But the Costa Rica that American retirees fell in love with in the 1980s and 90s no longer exists. Not at the price point you need. Costa Rica has become expensive. Not expensive by Costa Rican standards of 20 years ago, expensive by any standard. In the Central Valley, where most expats settle, rents are high. In popular expat towns like Atinas, Grisha, and Escazú, a decent rental can run you $800 to $1,200 a month. Utilities, especially electricity, are expensive by Central American standards. A car is almost a necessity in most areas because public transportation outside of San Jose is limited, and that means fuel, insurance, maintenance. Groceries are surprisingly costly because Costa Rica imports a significant portion of its food and consumer goods, and those import taxes get passed directly to you at the checkout counter. A trip to the grocery store in Costa Rica can feel almost identical to a trip to the grocery store in the United States, except you are earning Costa Rican purchasing power, not American. Then there is the healthcare math. Costa Rica's public healthcare system, the Caja, is good, but it is not free for foreign residents. You pay into it monthly, roughly 7 to 14% of your reported income. For many expats on Social Security, that means paying somewhere between $70 and $140 a month. That is not unreasonable in isolation, but added to the rent and the utilities and the groceries and the transportation, it eats up budget that you do not have to spare. And if you want private healthcare, which many expats do because the Caja wait times for non-urgent procedures can stretch for months, you are paying out of pocket or buying a separate private policy, which adds another layer of cost. Costa Rica is not a ripoff. It is not a scam. It is simply a country where the costs have risen to a level that no longer works for someone living entirely on Social Security. If you have a pension on top of Social Security, if you have a healthy 401k balance, if you have rental income or a part-time remote job, Costa Rica becomes viable. But if Social Security is all you have, Costa Rica is going to feel like a countdown clock, every month a little more anxious than the last, until you are forced to admit that the math does not add up and you have to start over somewhere else. Spain. I am going to say something that will make some people angry, but it needs to be said. Spain, for the average American Social Security retiree, is a fantasy. A beautiful, culturally rich, historically magnificent fantasy. But a fantasy. The non-lucrative visa that Spain offers to retirees requires proof of sufficient financial means, which currently translates to roughly 28,000 euros per year for a single person, plus additional amounts for dependents. Social Security at $1,900 a month equals $22,800 a year. You are $5,000 short of the visa requirement before you have even started. Now, some people get around this with savings. The Spanish consulate will consider assets in addition to income, but liquid assets do you no good in covering your monthly expenses, and the visa threshold exists for a reason. The Spanish government is telling you, in its clinical bureaucratic language, that you need more than Social Security to live in Spain. They are right. Even in the cheaper regions, Andalusia, Extremadura, the smaller towns away from the coast, the numbers are tight. A modest apartment in a non-tourist town might run you 500 to 700 euros a month. That sounds manageable, and on a spreadsheet, it is. But add utilities, food, transportation, private health insurance for the first year until you can access the public system, and you are looking at 1,400 to 1,700 euros a month, which is $1,500 to $1,800. You are now spending almost your entire Social Security check. And, as with Portugal, you have not budgeted for a single emergency. Spain is magnificent. The quality of life, the culture, the food, the people, It is all real. But it is not cheap. It is a first world European country with first world European costs. If $1,900 a month is your entire retirement income, Spain is not your destination. It is a vacation you cannot afford to make permanent. Thailand is where this conversation gets complicated, because Thailand, unlike the other countries I have mentioned, is genuinely affordable. You can live in Chiang Mai or a quieter Bangkok neighborhood on $1,200 to $1,500 a month comfortably. The food is incredible and cheap. The healthcare is world-class and affordable. The expat community is massive and supportive. On the surface, Thailand looks like it should be in the possible column. But Thailand earns its place in the impossible column for one reason and one reason alone: health insurance. Or, more accurately, the lack of it. Thailand does not offer public healthcare coverage to foreign retirees. You are entirely on your own. You can buy private health insurance as a foreigner, but here is what nobody tells you in the upbeat expat YouTube videos. Once you are over 70, most Thai insurers will not issue you a new policy. If they do issue one, the premium will be astronomical. If the premium is not astronomical, the policy will exclude pre-existing conditions, which, if you are over 70, is essentially every condition you are actually likely to need treatment for. This creates a devastating trap that plays out over years. You move to Thailand at 65 or 67, you are healthy. You buy a policy, or you decide to self-pay because private healthcare is so affordable compared to the United States. A doctor visit costs $30. An MRI costs $300. You think you have cracked the code. And for 5 or 6 or 7 years, you are fine. You are living well. Your Social Security goes further than you ever imagined possible. Then you turn 70 or 72. A policy renewal comes due, and your premium has tripled. Or you develop a condition that falls into the pre-existing exclusion category on your next policy. Or something happens, the kind of thing that happens to people in their 70s, a cardiac event, a cancer diagnosis, a stroke, and suddenly you are uninsurable or underinsured in a country where you have no safety net. You have no Medicare. You have no VA coverage. You have nothing except the cash in your bank account and whatever your insurance company decides to cover after examining your medical history. This is the Thailand trap. It is not the cost of living. It is the cost of getting sick. And for a Social Security retiree with no other assets, getting sick in Thailand without coverage is not a setback. It is the end of the retirement. Panama City deserves an honorable mention in the trap section, and I specify Panama City deliberately, not Panama as a country. Panama as a country is actually one of the best retirement destinations in the world. I have said that before, and I stand by it. But Panama City specifically has become a trap for American retirees who hear about the pensionado program, the discounts, the US dollar, the proximity to the United States, and assume the capital city is the place to be. Panama City is expensive, not Central America expensive. Expensive, expensive. A decent apartment in a safe neighborhood with air conditioning, which you will need because Panama City is hot and humid year-round, can run you $1,200 to $1,800 a month. A meal at a mid-range restaurant costs $20 to $30. Groceries at the nice supermarkets that carry the products you are used to are comparable to US prices. The city has a modern skyline, luxury shopping malls, and a cost structure to match. A Social Security check at $1,900 a month disappears in Panama City almost as fast as it disappears in Miami. The secret to Panama, and I have said this before, is to go to the smaller cities: David, Boquete, Coronado, Las Tablas, Chitre, places where the pensionado discounts actually compound on top of a genuinely lower cost of living, rather than being absorbed by inflated urban prices. In David, you can rent for $300 to $500 a month. In Boquete, $400 to $700. The pensionado discount knocks 25% off your restaurant meals, 15% off your hospital bills, 25% off your utilities, 25% off your airfare. In these smaller cities, that discount is the difference between getting by and living well. In Panama City, it barely covers the markup, so Panama stays in the possible column, but only if you choose the right place within Panama. And that leads me directly into the other half of this video: the countries where your Social Security check does not just survive. It buys a life that feels like the reward you spent decades earning. Let me start the possible list with the country that is genuinely the single best retirement destination on the planet for someone living on Social Security alone: Panama. Yes, we just covered why Panama City is a trap, but outside the capital, Panama is unmatched. The Pensionado program is not marketing, it is law. You qualify with a lifetime pension income of $1,000 a month. Your Social Security check easily clears that threshold. Once you are in the program, you receive the discounts I mentioned, and they are real, they are mandatory, and they apply almost everywhere. Restaurants, 25% off. Utilities, 25% off. Hospital bills, 15% off. Airline tickets, 20 to 30% off. Entertainment like movies and concerts, 50% off. Hotel stays, 25% off. This is not a coupon. It is not a limited time offer. It is a legally mandated benefit of being a retired foreign resident in Panama. Now layer that on top of a low cost of living in the right locations. In David, near the Costa Rican border, a couple can live comfortably on $1,200 to $1,500 a month, including rent. In Bocate, a mountain town with cool spring-like weather year-round, excellent coffee, and a vibrant expat community, you can live well on $1,400 to $1,700. In Coronado, a beach town popular with expats, the numbers are similar. The US dollar eliminates currency risk. The proximity to the United States means a 3-hour flight to Miami, not a 20-hour ordeal across multiple time zones. The healthcare system is good, with modern private hospitals in David and Panama City, and many doctors who trained in the United States. The expat community is large and well-established, which means you can find English-speaking services, social groups, and the kind of support network that makes the transition from anxious newcomer to comfortable resident much faster than you expect. Panama is not perfect. The bureaucracy can be slow. The heat and humidity in the lowland areas are not for everyone. The roads outside the main highways are not always great, but on the core criteria that matter for a Social Security retiree, affordability, safety, healthcare access, proximity to family, and currency stability, Panama is in a class by itself. And the Pensionado discount means your Social Security check buys more in Panama than the dollar amount suggests. A $1,900 check in Panama, with the discounts applied, has the effective purchasing power of roughly $2,300 to $2,500. That is not just surviving, that is actually living. Colombia is the country that nobody believes belongs on a retirement list, which is exactly why it is one of the best options available. The stigma is real. When you tell someone you are considering retiring in Colombia, they think of things that ended decades ago. The Colombia of 2026 is not the Colombia of the 90s. The transformation has been remarkable, uneven, incomplete, but remarkable. And the city of Medellin is the best example of what modern Colombia offers. Medellin sits in a valley at about 5,000 feet of elevation, which gives it what locals call eternal spring. The temperature hovers between 65 and 78 degrees year-round. You do not need heating. You do not need air conditioning. Your utility bill is essentially for lights and water, and it is modest. The cost of living in Medellin is genuinely low. A couple can live well on $1,100 to $1,400 a month, including rent. A single person on $1,900 a month has room to breathe, to travel within Colombia, to eat at nice restaurants occasionally, to build savings. An apartment in a good neighborhood like El Poblado or Laureles runs $400 to $700 a month. A meal at a nice restaurant costs $10 to $15. A doctor visit costs $25 to $35. Healthcare in Colombia is surprisingly good, with modern private hospitals and clinics in major cities, many of which have earned international accreditation. Medellin has a large and growing expat community. You will find yoga classes, Spanish language exchanges, hiking groups, book clubs, volunteer opportunities. You will not feel isolated. You will not feel like the only foreigner in the city. You will find people who did exactly what you were doing and who are happy to help you navigate the transition. Colombia is not without its challenges. Safety is a real concern in certain areas and certain cities. The key is to stay in the safe neighborhoods, which in Medellin are well known and well documented. You do not wander into unfamiliar areas at night. You do not flash expensive jewelry or electronics. The same common sense that keeps you safe in any major American city keeps you safe in Medellin. The language barrier is real. English is not widely spoken outside the tourist and expat zones. You will need to learn Spanish, at least enough to handle daily life, or you will feel perpetually dependent on others. But if you are willing to embrace those challenges, Colombia offers an extraordinary quality of life at a price point that Social Security can actually cover. It is one of the best-kept secrets in international retirement, and the secret is getting out. Malaysia is the country that almost nobody in the American retirement conversation is talking about, and that is a massive oversight. Malaysia is a developed country. It has modern infrastructure, excellent roads, reliable high-speed internet, clean and efficient public transportation in Kuala Lumpur and Penang, world-class shopping malls, and a standard of living that feels first world. But the cost of living is Southeast Asian, not European or American. A couple can live comfortably in Penang or Kuala Lumpur on $1,200 to $1,500 a month. A single retiree on $1,900 a month can live very well. The healthcare system in Malaysia is outstanding. Private hospitals in Kuala Lumpur, Penang, and Malacca are modern, well-equipped, and staffed with English-speaking doctors, many of whom trained in the United Kingdom, Australia, or the United States. A consultation with a specialist costs $30 to $50. A comprehensive health screening costs a few $100s. The quality of care is comparable to what you would receive at a good American hospital, and the cost is a fraction of what you would pay. Malaysia is also one of the most food-focused cultures on Earth. The fusion of Malay, Chinese, and Indian culinary traditions means you can eat extraordinarily well for $3 to $5 a meal. The street food is legendary, safe, and so affordable that cooking at home sometimes costs more than eating out. The visa situation is the one major hurdle. Malaysia's long-term retirement visa program, the Malaysia My Second Home program, or MM2H, was significantly tightened a few years ago, making the financial requirements more demanding. There are newer variations of the program with different tiers and different thresholds, and the rules continue to evolve. It is not impossible, but it requires research and probably the help of an agent who specializes in the process. For some retirees, the visa complexity is a deal breaker, but for those willing to navigate it, Malaysia offers something that is increasingly rare, a first-world lifestyle at a developing world price. And it does so without asking you to sacrifice safety, healthcare quality, or daily convenience. Ecuador is the closest thing to a cheat code in the international retirement game. Specifically, the city of Cuenca. Cuenca is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It is a colonial city with cobblestone streets, cathedrals, plazas, and a thriving community of American retirees who discovered it years ago and never left. The cost of living is extraordinarily low. A couple can live comfortably on $900 to $1,200 a month. A single retiree on $1,900 a month has significant surplus every month for travel, savings, or simply enjoying life without financial stress. Rents in Cuenca are modest, $300 to $500 a month for a nice apartment. Utilities are low. The weather is spring-like year-round because of the high altitude, which means no heating or air conditioning costs. Food is fresh, local, and cheap. A meal at a good restaurant costs $5 to $8. Healthcare in Ecuador is good and affordable. A doctor visit costs $25 to $30. Prescription medications are a fraction of United States prices. Private health insurance for a retiree costs a few $100s a month. The healthcare system is not as polished as Costa Rica or Panama, but it is far more affordable and perfectly adequate for routine and preventive care. There is a trade-off. Cuenca sits at about 8,500 feet of elevation. Not everyone adjusts well to high altitude. Some people experience shortness of breath, fatigue, or headaches for weeks or months after arriving. It is something you should test before committing. A short-term rental for a month or two will tell you whether your body handles the altitude. If it does, Cuenca becomes one of the most affordable, charming, and community-rich retirement destinations on the planet. Your Social Security check does not just stretch in Cuenca, it multiplies. Mexico is the most accessible, most convenient option on this list. And that accessibility is exactly why it belongs here. You can drive to Mexico. You do not need a long-haul flight. Your family can visit easily. You can return to the United States whenever you need to without spending $1,000 on airfare. The proximity alone makes Mexico a more practical retirement destination for many American seniors than any country in Asia or South America. But the key to Mexico, the absolute non-negotiable key, is choosing the right city. Mexico is a large, diverse country. The cost of living varies wildly. If you choose Mexico City, you are choosing one of the most expensive cities in Latin America. If you choose Tulum or Playa del Carmen, you are choosing resort town prices that rival parts of the United States. If you choose Puerto Vallarta's most desirable neighborhood, same story. But if you choose Mérida, you get a safe, culturally rich colonial city where a couple can live on $1,200 to $1,500 a month. If you choose Lake Chapala, you get the largest expat community in Mexico and a cost of living that works on Social Security. If you choose Querétaro or Guanajuato or San Miguel de Allende, though the latter has gotten more expensive, you get beautiful walkable cities with mild weather and a quality of life that feels luxurious without the luxury price tag. Mérida deserves special attention because it might be the single best retirement city in Mexico for a Social Security retiree. It is the capital of Yucatan State. It is safe. Statistically, it is one of the safest cities in North America, with a lower violent crime rate than many comparably sized United States cities. It has a beautiful colonial center, excellent food, a growing expat community, modern healthcare facilities, and a cost of living that works. A nice apartment in a good neighborhood runs $400 to $600 a month. A meal at a good restaurant costs $8 to $12. Healthcare is affordable and high quality, with modern private hospitals and English-speaking doctors. Mérida is also just 30 minutes from the Gulf Coast, so you get beach access without beach town prices. Mexico's challenges are well known. Safety concerns exist in certain regions, and those concerns are legitimate. The key is to choose your city carefully, research the specific neighborhoods, and stay informed. The visa process is straightforward. A temporary resident visa is available to retirees who can prove sufficient monthly income, and Social Security qualifies. The visa can be renewed and eventually converted to permanent residency. Mexico is not the exotic adventure that Thailand or Malaysia represents, but that is exactly the point. It is close, it is familiar, it is practical, and in the right city, it works on Social Security. Let me bring this together because I have thrown a lot of specific numbers at you across 10 countries, and I want you to walk away with a framework, not just a list. The framework is this. There are 3 questions you must answer before you choose any country to retire in on Social Security. Question 1. What is the actual monthly cost for the lifestyle you want? Not the rock-bottom survival budget, not the idealized version from a travel blog, but the real number for rent plus utilities plus food plus health coverage plus transportation plus a small emergency buffer. If that number exceeds $1,800 a month, you cannot afford that country on Social Security alone. It is that simple. Question 2. What is your health coverage plan, specifically and in detail? Not, the healthcare is good there, vaguely, but which insurance policy, which hospital? What does the policy cover? What does it exclude? What is the premium? And what happens if you develop a serious condition at age 75? If you cannot answer these questions clearly, you have not finished your research. Question 3. What happens when things go wrong? Not if they go wrong, when? Your adult child gets sick and you need to fly home. The local currency crashes. The visa rules change. Your apartment floods. You need emergency surgery. If your budget has no slack for the unpredictable, your budget is not a budget, it is a wish. The seniors who thrive abroad on Social Security are not the ones who found some magical secret country nobody else knows about. There is no such country. Every country I have mentioned in the possible list has thousands of American retirees already living there. The thriving seniors are the ones who picked a country that fits their actual budget, their actual health situation, and their actual tolerance for distance and language and culture shock. They did the math honestly. They planned for the emergencies before the emergencies arrived. They built a life within their means, not a fantasy that exceeded them.